The amount of times I'm at the track on a cold day and I see someone show up just in shorts and a t-shirt, they do some static stretching and then get straight into sprinting. It's like, it causes me pain. It's like, dude, you're gonna snap yourself up. I really think stretching and mobility is a reasonably simple topic, but at the same time, so many people don't understand the wide implications of what's really going on here, how to do it properly, so let's go. So the core part of better flexibility in my eyes is like, well, if you have better range of motion, you can just move better, exercise better. You don't want to be that stiff gym bro who's like, looks like he's made out of wood. It's like, he's alive, but why does it already look like he has rigor mortis? I was stretching after my session one time at my old university gym, and I saw this juice hit in front of me, like really getting stuck in a lot of pain, getting into that deep stretch, except it was just like a basic lunge. I was like, what's going on? And some of the acute or short-term benefits is, you know, if you do it a little bit later on in the day after your training or right after, you know, it is proven to reduce muscle soreness and theoretically reduce injury risk as well. So why are these people I see at the track idiots? Well, sorry, why do they have room to improve? My therapist tells me I shouldn't just harass people unprompted, but she's not very smart either. She has room to improve. There are two main reasons here, and the first one is so overlooked. People will be like, oh, I'm cold, I'm stiff, I need to do some stretching before I get going. But the thing is, probably the number one thing that influences the elasticity and flexibility of both your joints and your muscle is heat. A lot of your major joints are what's called synovial joints, and they have this synovial fluid inside of them. This is like your ankle, your knee, your hip, and if it's cold, the synovial fluid becomes a bit more viscous, a bit thicker, so it just makes it harder for the joint to, you know, move a bit more freely. And as all the muscle fibers and all the associated connective tissue get stiffer when it's cold. So instead of stretching, you'd be way better off just putting on some sweatpants. Don't worry, why are you wearing shorts, dude? It's snowing. Put the sweatpants down, go for a jog, like do this experiment, right? Do like, you know, a basic stretch, and then go for a run, and then stretch after. You haven't like stretched during the run, but it's way easier. Like, it's insane. And the second reason is static stretching will sap a little bit of the power it takes away from some of the elasticity between the relationship between your muscle fibers and your tendon that's associated with it, which makes dynamic stretching a bit better beforehand, and you can go for static afterward. Usually for me, I always start with a jog to actually warm up the muscle and the joints, and then I do maybe some skipping and then my dynamic stretching, and then everything just goes from there, dude. So how to actually stretch? A lot of people debate on the time. There's a few studies out there, most of them kind of suggest like 20 to 30 seconds is fine. I like to recommend 30, just allows you to have a little bit more time to sink into that stretch, like you're sinking into a warm bath, except it's way too hot and it's causing excruciating pain. Okay, and another big hitter if you're actually trying to improve flexibility like properly, you're gonna probably need to do multiple reps of this because, you know, it might take until rep 2 or 3 or even 4 of that 30-second hold really to get into where your kind of limit is flexibility wise, and that's really where you're making that nice progress. One advanced technique you can use is called PNF stretching, where basically if you're doing, say I'm doing like a lunge here, I'll be in that stretch and then I might take 10 seconds to do your PNF contraction, you'd call it. So you're just like contracting the muscles that you're actually stretching for maybe 10 seconds just at a very low intensity, like 20%, and then you sink back into that stretch. It'll give you that autogenic inhibition, which helps the muscle relax a bit more and will help you get into that stretch even more. So more pain for everyone as well. This study here shows that slower, deeper breathing has been shown to reduce tension, so be doing that as well. Don't be like panting, dude, like, oh my days, this hurts, dude. And a big note here about injury, do not stretch a muscle that is strained. Okay, this is a quick way to tear it even more, and I'd say be careful with stretching a muscle that's like a little bit tight that is concerning, because that might be a sign that it's a little bit damaged, so just be careful there. And as well with like really deep stretches, like say a front split, make sure you're a bit more relaxed on that warm-up stretch so you don't tear yourself up, dude. That's kind of that's not what we want to do here today. So some of the stretches I really pushed maybe a year or two ago to improve my flexibility to a good level. I haven't been stretching too much recently, guilty as charged, but one of the big ones is this hip flexor stretch I do here. So basically settle into a lunge and then grab your back ankle and then pull it in and then sink a little bit lower, and then if you really want to go further, contract your back glute, and it's gonna pinch your hip flexor so much. But dude, the stretch is like absurd. Number one stretch in my opinion, because that hip mobility is really helpful with running, and even more so with sprinting and jumping, which is what I do, right? The second one is gonna be this weird hamstring thing I do. I'm gonna be careful with one of my legs because the hamstring is a little bit tight, but what I like to do is, you know, you might warm up with your standard hamstring stretch and then you grab onto your shins and you pull yourself even further, or you can even stand on your hands. it can help too. So really pulling yourself into that deep stretch, and your hamstring's like the other side that's going to inhibit some of your hip mobility. So I like to hit these as well, just together with a front split. I really think hip mobility is probably a #1 thing. That's why you can do the regular split to help with some of that abduction, because your hip joint moves in all directions. So if it's loose in all those directions, you just move better, dude. You just do. Ankle mobility is something I think a lot of people are lacking. You can kind of see where you're at just by like standing next to a wall. How far can you put your foot back and still touch the wall with your knee? You might notice there might be an imbalance between your legs. This is interesting to look into as well. And I think, I don't think stretching this is too effective. I recommend doing some ankle mobility stuff. I do this interesting thing with raising your front heel and doing like this slow lunge with a full range of motion. I got this off of Knees Over Toes guy. A couple years ago, my ankle was like almost collapsed, dude. The medial arch was on the floor. Not ideal. I was still trying to compete. It hurt. I couldn't really run, but I could sprint, which made warming up really tricky. It's like, where do I start? Check out Knees Over Toes guy just in general, just as a like safety guy. He'll develop power, but also in a way that's gonna, as he says, bulletproof you against injuries. Love that guy. Another nice thing you can do is do these like kind of follow along stretch routines you can find on YouTube. I like Tom Merrick's ones. Some of those are great. Some of those really help me get some of my hip mobility going, because it was not ideal initially, but now I'm kind of, it's in a decent place. It also feels like you're actually doing like a session. It feels nice when you complete it, and you can trust that these experts are gonna know what they're talking about, and the session's pretty well constructed. So I recommend those quite a bit. Yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully if you follow these tips, you're gonna improve your mobility, move better, and ideally get injured a lot less, dude. So that's the video. Let me know if you enjoyed. Please be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing. There's some more videos there. I'll see you next time.